Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wolfie's Wish Pet Loss Support Podcast. I am your host, Erica Messer. I'm so happy to bring up the topic of pet loss. I'm on a mission to validate pet loss grief as a normal form of grief. And I'm so excited to introduce my first guest, Miss Reagan Pasternak. She is a Los Angeles-based actress, writer, and creator. She began her acting career starring in Disney Channel's In a Heartbeat and has since worked on numerous film and TV projects, including Being Erica, HBO's Sharp Objects, Hulu's Good Trouble, and BET's The Miss Pat Show. Reagan is also the author of the award-winning pet loss book, Griffin's Heart, which we will talk about today because it's amazing. It's an interactive guide meant to help us navigate the grief that many go through after losing a beloved pet. So welcome, Reagan. Thanks so much for being here.
I am so happy to be here, and I've been admiring you from afar. We've had our little talks online, but I'm so impressed by what you're doing, by your huge heart and your
Thank you.
empathy, and I'm in awe of you. So there you go.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Well, I got your book early on when I was struggling with the loss of Wolfgang and trying to find
Oh,
resources. And I'm sure you can relate. It kind of felt like a hamster just running. I was like, what do I do? And
right.
I came across your book and it was like, oh, I felt like a hug. It felt like somebody, it's such a beautiful memoir keepsake book that literally I just liked knowing I had it and I kept it in its nice little case. And like I didn't want to write in it because I just didn't want to mess it up. It's so lovely. And over time, I
Oh,
mean, I
well,
would
you
read it
gotta
and then
write
like,
in it.
I
Then it
know, I
becomes a
do now.
collection
I
of
do
of
now.
of, of your baby.
I
Yeah.
do now. But before we get into the book, which I can't wait to, can you tell us about Griffin? Like,
Yeah.
what's your gotcha story with Griffin?
So this is I can't even believe this is actually happening because I just want to tell you, I was just telling you before that I wrote this book, like I started writing this book over 12 years ago. It took me a long time to write it. And I still, like, you just saying his name, like I feel like I'm gonna cry. That's how weird grief is, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when I so now I'm a very avid animal rescue person, and I all my animals, I have 5 animals, 2 dogs and 3 cats right now, and they're all rescues. But when I had Griffin, I really didn't know about that world as much, and I have a lot of guilt about that because I think that's probably why he got sick young and all that stuff. So I was my ex-boyfriend was allergic to cats, and so we found this breed called a Devon Rex, which were very good for allergies, apparently. So we actually bought this little cat, Cleo, who was a Devon Rex, these cats are so unique and crazy and amazing and brilliant. I'm telling you, they're like, I say they're monkey, I call it in the book, they're like an alien monkey hybrid, and they'll sit on your shoulder, and they're just weirdos. And we got Cleo, and then I got my first big acting job where I was on set constantly, so I felt guilty and I wanted her to have a friend. So I went and so my friend ordered 2 cats from this god knows where shady place,
No,
because
no.
they came in a truck. And I
What?
still lived in Canada at the time. They came in a truck in the middle of like the night, and I was still actually on set. And my boyfriend at the time was like, so the cat's here. Have you seen this cat? I'm like, no, I don't know. My friend ordered it for us. And he's like, he's really crazy looking. Like, he hardly has any hair, and his ears are huge. And I was like, okay, all right, what's happening? And I just remember coming in that night, and I opened the door to my apartment at the time, and this like long, lanky, like kind of orange cat, but he was like barely any hair, with the most humongous ears I'd ever seen, comes like prancing to the door, and he just like meows at me, and I was immediately in love like I have never
Oh,
felt in my
oh.
life. Like I was just like, and I had to go away on a press tour the next day for my show to the States. And I was just up all night staring at him and his little face, his little wrinkly head. Please go look up Devon
Yeah,
Rexes if you
I
know what I'm talking
did.
about. When
I
when you
did.
see them, but to your listeners, just if they don't know what it is, they're weird looking cats. Like now I'm just obsessed with them. But um I was just madly in love with this cat immediately, like his little face up against me, just purring all night. And that was my gotcha story, because it was full blown love at first sight. Like, I love all my animals, but there was something immediately. It was just connection, like
Yeah.
immediately, and that just kept growing from there. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely relate to that with, I've had a lot of pets over the years.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't until I lost Wolfgang that I was looking for support and I heard the term soul cat or soul dog. And yet
Yeah.
without definition, I knew exactly that that's what I had.
Oh,
And I feel so lucky. And I think you will say the same about Griffin, that yeah, it was like this bond that's like on it's not like any other relationship with a pet or person. It's just this special bond. And
mhm.
so when that's gone, we just feel there's this not a void is an understatement. I don't even know what to describe that kind of loss is, but it's it's profound.
Well, and it's funny, when I was researching for the book, I came across brilliant academics, all these other people who felt the exact same way, where there is this bond that happens, and part of me wonders if it's because we don't speak the same language, so it's all inside, it's all the
Mm,
innate feelings and things that are kind of out of this world a little bit, because you can't really
yeah,
explain it, because you're not, if there was like, if a boyfriend was like up in my face purring at me, I'd be like, get away from me. But like an animal doing that, it's like the most soothing, wonderful thing. So there is something spiritual about it. Like, I don't know
you're
what I
right.
believe with anything, but there's something spiritual about an animal's love. There, it just is.
Well, I was rereading some of the book and I come across, I mean, you've done a lot of research to distill in here. And one of the things that still stands out is that you had quoted Eckhart Tolle and one of his talks, and that a man had, and you'll say this better, but a man had asked about, why can't I get over why am I struggling with the grief, of losing my pet? And I think Eckhart said that they are guardians of being. and and then you
Right.
went on to write a little bit about that, and it
Yeah.
really, I love continuing to learn about the human animal bond and how special it is. And you just kind of brought on a whole new element about, right, we can't talk, and yet we find ways to communicate. And sure, dogs will know, like, come here, sit, stay, and all of that,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's no we don't have conversations like we do with our human friends
Exactly.
and families.
When Eckhart Tolle, when I read that, I remember having chills when I read that speech of uh that speech of Eckhart Tolle, or I watched it. I can't even remember what it was, but God, remember, this is a long time coming, this book, so there's a lot to it. But the man asked him that, and he said guardians of being, which meant to Eckhart Tolle, what it meant is our being is the part of us. It's like, you could call it your soul, you can call it something else, but it's the other part of us that's not about materialist things. It's not it's just this other, deeper, pure part of us that we have. And they kind of bring us back to that feeling of our being, of our, the unacademic or cerebral part of love, or who we are. And I had put that chapter at the beginning of the book because I remember when this all came to me, I just thought, I want to refer to pets or our animals throughout the book as beings,
Hmm.
because of that speech, and because of that. I love Eckhart Tolle, love him.
Yeah, I do
So
too.
yeah, he's wonderful. But so throughout the book, I call them beings, because to me, that's what they are. They're this other kind of way of interpreting love and life. And I hope it makes sense what I'm saying. But yeah, that's
Oh yeah, it totally does. And I
yeah.
think it'll resonate with people too. And that's what I love about, doing this podcast, is bringing up the conversation, but also having people identify with, something that they may not have even really identified with themselves, or how they see their pet, and, help people understand why, when that bond is broken, why it's so profound. Because I went through that. I was like, I had this voice in my head saying, it's just a cat. Erica, it's just a cat.
Hmm.
And I had to kind of unravel and figure out, well, why why am I such a mess? And what am I going to do about it? So, so tell me, what's one of your favorite memories of Griffin? I mean, you just shared the gotcha story, which is adorable. And by the way, did you think he looked weird, like an alien, or did you
Oh, when
know
I
what was
first
coming? Yeah,
I
when
did
you
not.
first saw him.
My other Devon Rex that we'd had first was bred differently, I guess, or something. So she had more hair. And she was weird looking
Okay.
too. Like she was not a normal looking cat either, but not like Griffin. I mean, Griffin was like all legs. He was sticky. Like when I picked him up, he was sticky because he had barely had any
Oh
hair.
my God.
And then his giant green saucer eyes. Oh my God. To me, he was the most beautiful, amazing thing I'd ever seen. But I was
Wow.
like, whoa, this is not a normal looking cat. I'd never seen anything like that. So, um, yeah, yeah. So yeah, and
Yeah.
what a favorite memory. I think I really couldn't say one thing. I loved the way he would sleep on me. He would sleep on me like flat with his, just so in tune with me. So it's really hard for me to even think of one or two memories because we were so inseparable. I brought him everywhere with me. I brought him when I
Wow.
traveled for work. I would, he was such a dog cat. So I could just
Right.
kind of, yeah, bring him anywhere. And it's just more the day-to-day every things. I just found him so curious and so in tune with me. I don't know how else to say it. Just
Wow.
yeah, it was more about the connection. And he was such a bright cat. He could sit and give paw and he could do all those fun things
Oh
for a
my
cat
goodness.
that's unusual.
Yeah, I've
Um
never seen that.
yeah. And he was just silly and funny and all those things, but he was just we were just connected, and that's really more what it is about, the connection. Yeah.
Do you feel like do you feel like you compare your relationships with your pets now to that, or have you ever felt that deep of a love again?
What's so funny, and I talk about this a lot in the book too, just I've realized now since Griffin died, I've had, my mom passed away and other insignificant people I've lost in my life. So what I realize now is it's not just pet loss or pets that are different from each other. It's every love is different. Every loss is different. And no other animal will compare to Griffin. There's just no way. But I got, when Griffin died, the reason why I put a Band-Aid, well, my husband painted this cover
Oh,
of
he
this.
did.
Yeah,
Oh
he
my
did.
goodness.
And he painted it for me as a painting when I lost Griffin because I was so devastated. But he put a Band-Aid on the hurt. Part of it was because he wanted to fix my heart because my heart was so broken. And I
Hmm.
kept trying to put Band-Aids on my heart. Like when Griffin died, we took in this stray that was on the street. And I was like, okay, I like him, but this isn't doing it for me. Let's go get a dog. So we went and got a dog. And Jed was my dog. He passed away during COVID, but he didn't even fix the thing, but I grew to love that dog. So that's the only other animal so far that I can really say it was hard losing that dog. Like, I mean, it's been hard losing all my animals. It's, but Jed ended up becoming very, very also, in tune with me as, and me, him too, I hope. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. It goes both ways. And
Yeah.
And one of the things I like to remind, like I run a support group now, and I share with people, write down all of the things that you loved about your pet. Write down all of the memories that you want to cherish and go back and reread on the anniversary of their death, or like cultivate those memories and really continue that bond. Um, because it is special, and it's something that's what we can do, and that's what we can
Well,
remember.
that's literally um why I wrote the book. That's literally
Yeah.
why I wrote the book. Because unfortunately, when somebody dies, a pet, a person, anybody, you are so full of pain that you're just thinking about the pain. And the thing is, the reason why you had the pain is because everything that came before was intense and beautiful and good and layered. And so, because grief, I'm sure you've figured this out too, can really make you get stuck. And I
Yeah.
definitely got stuck after Griffin.
Yeah.
I got stuck after my mom passed away too. And so the more I would learn about therapy and the more I learned about grief is that you have to kind of untangle it. And the way to untangle it is to, even though it's hard, write it out. And so throughout my book, I'm not trying to plug, I'm just saying this is literally, because I was like, what do I need? And I needed to undo it. So, but throughout my book, so I figured I'm going to write a chapter on how I felt when I first saw Griffin, or I'm going to write a chapter on my favorite memories, or where it hurts in my heart. And then always on the next couple pages after the chapter, I want the reader to, there's places for photos and that kind of thing, to write their story. So it's like, we're friends. We're just talking throughout the book. Like, this was what happened with me. What happened with you? And they're like, oh, well, this happened with me. And they're getting it out slowly. And I tried to make it super deliberate so that you heal in like kind of increments, and it's not too much. Yeah, because it's hard to take on too much. Some people have written me and said they finished it in a night, but some people have been like, I'm still working on it. It's 3 months in, but it's good. I keep going back to blah 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 blah. But I believe, they say the way out is through, and I know that is true. That is 100% true. I've seen it, I've proved it over and over again in so many different areas of my life. And with grief, I feel like it's so hard to like turn into your pain, turn and look at your sadness and the hurt and go, I'm getting through this. So what do I have to do to get through this? And then you just kind of need someone to guide you sometimes, which I did. I needed somebody to guide me. So yeah, I completely agree. Write down the good memories, do those things, but it's about taking back ownership of the story. And the story isn't the pain. The story isn't the pain, it's the love. And that's kind of how you get through it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think what you touched on was really important that I want to underscore, and that is there isn't a quick fix to grief, and there isn't a fast track to it, and it's not something that can just be chosen to get over. And I actually tried to do that. I tried to tell myself,
same.
okay, I accept what happened, and I, forgive my friend, and all right, brain, like, come on. And grief is a slow, taffy pulling process. And don't you think we have to be brave to go into it? I mean, it's
Yes.
quite a fire to walk through. And I don't think anyone should have to do it alone. And that's
Yeah.
why I like that your book is literally like a step-by-step guide, day by day. Yes, you can sit down and do a lot of the reading and exercises. But that doesn't mean you're going to get over your grief faster, right?
There's no getting over your grief. And you can have a month, you can have a year of thinking you're over your grief, but you're never over grief. And you're not supposed to be. When I pass away, I hope my son isn't just over me. I hope that he
Yeah.
can take everything with him and do it in a healthy way. But I don't want somebody to just be over me. And I don't want to be over Griffin. And that's actually a really hard part of grief. Is once you start kind of moving on, you're like, wait, I feel guilty. How am I moving on when they suffered, or and it's about, just doing it in small ways, but not getting over it. You don't need to get over it. You take it and learn from it. And then, and then you can see how you can grow from it. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's real. It's true. Like, I became a better person because of what I learned about grief, because of Griffin. Griffin taught me all this stuff about grief that I got to use with my mother, that I got to use with my other animals who passed away, and just also like really reflecting on myself, like, wow, I love really good. Like, I can love really deeply, that it hurt me this much to lose my
Right.
cat,
Right.
yeah. And it's like, well, that's not a bad thing. That's a nice thing, actually. And I can use it in all areas of my life, and just, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's, wow, I had this love with an animal, this sweet, sweet, innocent love. And that's a beautiful thing that I'm proud of. And I'm proud of you for having that. We're so lucky to experience that, right? It's like
We are. We are.
nice. Yeah.
Were you taken aback or surprised at the amount of pain and grief you were going through?
Oh,
Did it
yeah.
kind of shock you?
I was a disaster, and I kept thinking, okay, when is this going to stop? And if anybody like I hadn't seen for a little while, or start talking to me, I would start crying, and they'd be like, whoa, girl, you're a little great. Like, it seemed a little nuts, and I wasn't
Hmm.
sleeping, and I was taking on too much. A lot of things were happening at the same time in my life at that time. But I ended up seeing a doctor to help me sleep because I couldn't sleep anymore. The grief, and it's very surreptitious. Is that the right word I want to say? But
Yeah.
it pretends to be something else, grief, a lot of the times. You're like, oh, I can't sleep. What's going on? Da, da. And then when I went to see a doctor, but I write about this in the book, but when I
Yeah.
went to see finally a doctor, a psychiatrist, to help me give me a prescription to sleep because I could, nothing was working. And she's the one who got me to start this whole journey because she was
Hmm.
asking me what was going on in my life. And I'm telling her about stuff that's going on with my family and all these other horrible things that were going on. And I'm like, and also, my cat, and I started bawling on that, not on any
You
of the
couldn't
other
even
things.
get it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was the first person who said, what was his name? I'm like, oh, he was Griffin. And she's like, what color was he? Like, she started asking me questions, and she taught me that in that first session, she said that animals come into our lives and take on the pain and the hardships that we have. And she said, it's interesting that Griffin died of a sick heart, just because it sounds like you've had a lot of heartbreak in your life, every angle heartbreak. And she goes, I just find that interesting. And I just remember being like, whoa, she was just taking me seriously. It was the first time,
Right.
she wasn't going, well, that's good. Well, then here's your prescription. She was just like, you got to learn to mourn your cat. That's literally what she said to me. She skipped all the other crap that had been going on in my life. And like, she saw that this was the one that I couldn't quite handle, and she was right. My poor dog is in the back row with her giant cone on her head. She's a hot spot. Oh, it's been a disaster, but there you go. Real life, right? That's the beauty of this stuff.
Well, don't you feel lucky that you found someone that could acknowledge and see the direct relationship and how much it's like she instantly validated your loss right there.
It changed everything. I mean, it changed the trajectory of my grief, of my life, because that's when I started knowing I wanted to write the book. And I mean, it was within the next few days because I did everything she said, but she wanted me to. She's like, do you look at his photos? No, it's too hard. She's like, go look at his photos when you get home. I was like, okay. She's like, start writing out memories, right? So she immediately was saying these things to me. I went to her. She had no idea anything. I didn't know she was going to talk to me about Griffin. I didn't know any of that. I just couldn't sleep and I didn't know why.
Right.
So,
Right.
so yeah, and so she that changed everything for me, just having somebody go, she's an actual medical professional,
Right.
and she took me very seriously. She was very serious about it. So, and told me that when we invalidate our own pain, our own grief, that stuffs it in down, 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 and it starts coming out in ugly little ways. It's just, like I can't sleep, or, you get guarded, or things happen that you don't even know are related to the grief if you're not dealing with it. So her validating it was everything to me.
Mm.
I would also say that I feel like, even though I got very lucky to have that chance encounter with this doctor, I do believe we can't rely on other people to get our grief. It's so private and individual. And if you have somebody amazing, but the reality is you kind of have to go, this is nobody else's issue but mine. Go seek out help if you need help. Absolutely. I'm all for that. But you have to take it on and figure it out yourself, because nobody will understand your connection with your animal. Nobody will really be able to empathize, but they can empathize, but they can't really be there. And nobody could. How could they? We'd all walk around like zombies if we were taking on everybody else's pain all the time. So it's up to us to carve out that space and make sure we're healing properly. It's really important. Anyway.
And that's beautiful. And I'm so grateful for people like yourself that have seen that there's a need for that validation, that have seen that there's a need for tools for people to not walk around in another sense, like zombies, not knowing how to work with their grief, not knowing what to do with it, not knowing how to channel it. And
Mhm.
so I want to talk about the book a little bit. And for those that are watching on YouTube, you can see the cover. But for those of you that are listening, we'll definitely have show notes for you to go and check out her book. What I was saying to Reagan right before we started was that I love that, yes, it's a nice big keepsake journal, but you can go through it randomly, or you can go through it consecutively. And what I like about it is that it's digestible. And I think for a lot of people in those first few stages of grief, life is so overwhelming trying to readjust with this void of thing. This being is gone that was by your side all the time, right? And just doing simple basic daily tasks can be too much. Doing simple daily tasks is too much. And to have a way to work on the grief, while still maintaining going to work and having to do, if you're a mom and having family duties, it's nice to be able to just give yourself 5 minutes a day to say, okay, for this 5 minutes, I'm going to honor my pet. And you get to write their name in the beginning of the book. That was the first thing I did. Who do you dedicate this book to? Your animal's name, Wolfgang. It feels beautiful because you're already starting this journey of honoring your pet and your relationship with your pet. But I'm going to open it up. I'm just going to go to a random page, and here we are. There's a lovely quote. There is a beginning and an ending for everything that is alive. In between is living. Mm-hmm. This is by Brian, Melanie, and Robert Ingpen from Lifetimes. Tell us how you found this quote.
I'm going to turn my phone off because it's pinging, and I'm so sorry. Just sure that you're not
okay,
hearing
I didn't
this.
hear
I'm
it.
so sorry.
I didn't
okay,
hear
good.
it
Sorry. But goodbye. Wait, how I found that quote? Oh God. I mean, when I started writing and when I started trying to find books that would help me heal, I just clung to everything that felt good to me. And that book that I quoted there was actually a grief book for children that is so gorgeous. I mean, I really recommend that book to anybody. It was just it's very poetic, it's very unique. And I just remembered that quote. I thought, this is what it's really about. It's that, that it's not the beginning, it's not the end, but it's all the middle. And we lose sight of that when we're depressed and sad because, we're in pain and in the thick of the grief. So, yeah.
And on the next page, it says memories. The living is in between. And as hard as it feels right now, that's the part that really matters. Where the simple memories we need to hold on to are made, like meandering walks in the park, sweet snuggles on the couch, and overly enthusiastic greetings at the door. And it continues, and it's like, okay, I can decide, do I want more right now? There's a journal exercise that I've done, a space for the photo, or do I just want that quote for right now? And I love that people can use this book in a way that suits them best, right? And you can be the all or nothing, or you can be the all in, or you can be a little bit. Do you want to share with us, do you have a favorite part of the book that you would like to tell everyone about?
Well, so you asked me that when we were speaking earlier, and it's so hard because it is holistic and the chapters are really short, but I figured, you know what, I think I might read not the epilogue, but the last chapter, because I kind of think it sums up what I learned from this whole process. Okay, so bear with me while I read this. And I hope I don't cry at my own writing. That would be really obnoxious. This chapter is called Who Will You Become? And it starts. When people adore their pets, a part of me connects to them automatically. We may not have one other molecule of common ground in our bodies, minds, or spirits, but if you treat your animal like family and are a devoted caregiver, we could possibly be friends for life. I recognize something in pet lovers that feels comforting and familiar to me. I've come to believe that this is because we are a certain kind of tribe that seeks out joy, light, and connection. Life often has us trudging along our own individual paths, wearing heavy boots, getting weighed down by pain. But when we choose to share our heart with an animal, we find an innocent way to distract from those difficult feelings. Our sweet being becomes a mighty sponge, absorbing the hardest parts, holding our hurt for us with a selflessness that few humans could ever own. So when they die, what then? The light goes off, the joy goes missing, but it doesn't have to be that way. Psychotherapist Lori Gottlieb writes in her memoir, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, what are we so afraid of? It's not as if we're going to peer in those dark corners, flip on the light, and find a bunch of cockroaches. Fireflies love the dark too. There's beauty in those places, but we have to look in there to see it. After all the unconditional love, the fun, the acceptance, our animals have given us one last gift. They've given us an opportunity. They've given us an opportunity to grow and expand our hearts, our own beings. Losing an animal doesn't have to be something that we're required to simply get over. The old way of dealing with death feels antiquated and lacks a certain integrity, but we have the ability to change the culture of grief. Grief is an active emotion that we can choose to observe and tend to, where we used to be encouraged to brush aside our painful feelings and dismiss them and pretend they aren't really there. Now we know we have the option to examine them, to explore them. We can sit in a bit of discomfort and figure out why we love that specific being so much. What does it say about them? What does it say about us? I want to look forward only after I looked back, after I've learned everything I needed to learn and cleared any lingering negative energy or regret that may be surreptitiously lurking in the shadows. Through emotional exploration, community, and love, we can get back to the light, the kind that changes us for the better. This is what can happen when we're honest about what we've gone through, when we allow ourselves to love to our full capacity and honor the importance of losing someone who meant the world to us. This is where we grow. That's the end of that chapter.
Well read, and beautifully written too.
Thank you.
And so thank you for sharing this gift with the world. I know it took so much effort to put into it. Did you ever feel like, oh, I can't do this, it's not right, or it's not perfect, or like I don't want to do it anymore? How did you get through that process? So how did you
hence why it took me 12 years. Oh,
yeah.
So there was so many times where I'd start writing and I'd write a bunch of chapters that are, so different now that they're in the book, but I would write them and I'd be like, who do I think I am? Who am I? I'm not a writer. I can't write a book. I went on, and then I would start again, and then I'd feel this pull to do it again, and then I'd be like, oh, I don't even know what this book is. I don't even know what this should be, and da 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 da. And so I would beat myself up and a million times. And then I remember one day my husband just came out from the bedroom. I was in here kitchen drinking coffee, and he was like, you need to finish your book. You need to finish the book. He said, it's so authentic and true to who you are as a person, and you're going to have to finish it. I think you're always will regret it. And literally that day, Erica, this is what I did. I Googled how to finish a book. And there was a bunch of things. There was this one guy who had 5 pointers, and
Okay.
they were so practical and excellent. Like, if you get stuck in a chapter, move on, stop. Because that kept happening to me. I kept going, well, I want to write about X and XYZ, and I couldn't research it properly, or it just wasn't coming together. Move on. Set a time, like every single day that you're going to write it. So for me, I put minimum 2 hours every single day, no matter what. So if I had the flu, doesn't matter if it turned out garbage, I had to write every day. And the thing is, I wrote every single day until it was finished, and stuck with that. And it's not intimidating to write for 2 hours, because it was certain, you get in a flow state, and you also have the permission that when the flow state isn't there, you can move on. You don't have to, stay and keep going in that same direction if you're stuck. I can't remember all the points, but they were so practical, and I literally just followed them. I just did the thing he said, and the book finished. So just Google it, guys. If you want to write a book, just Google Google
Thank
can
you,
be really
Google. Thank you,
piercing.
Google, for teaching us how
I
to
know.
do just about anything, and
I
YouTube
know,
too.
really. I know, really.
Well,
And then, and then I hired an amazing editor who really also really she didn't boss me around, but she really steered me and would tell me when a chapter it's okay, it's not great. And then I'd be like, okay. So I had to go back and but it was great. I need you, if you want it to be good, you have
right,
to listen to people you respect, or you're just gonna
right,
be around, in a echo chamber, right? So
right. Well, beautiful work. And so I thank you for making it because it helped me immensely. And I know it's helped a lot of other people.
thank you.
Reagan, where can people find your book? Where is the best place for them to buy it?
Well, you can go to griffinsheart.com. That's our website. And or Amazon is, I mean, it's on a bunch of different animal resource sites that we sell on, but Amazon's the easiest probably. And yeah.
Okay, excellent. And I want to ask one last question.
Yeah.
For anyone that's listening that maybe is struggling today, is there something that you can recommend or say to them that will help them through this day?
I would say, first of all, take it easy on yourself. You're absolutely not alone, whether you know people in person who understand this pain or online. And go to Erica, read my book. There's people who get it, who want to connect with you too. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding to me than when somebody reaches out. So those are options. And I think what I started doing was allowing myself a time limit to cry or grieve, and then
Mm,
get up and go for a walk. Let yourself have it. That's
mm,
fine. But then also distract so you don't get overwhelmed with it, which is sometimes easier said than done. And you really
yeah,
might need a professional to just get you through if
right.
you get, but if you indulge it just enough, it's healing. If you indulge it a little too much, it can be really hard. So just give yourself a break and carve out time to mourn. And I know that you have your Wolfie's wish, your affirmation cards. Um, but I think things like that, things that are almost ceremonial in a way, like
Mhm.
I'm a big affirmation girly. I'm obsessed with I believe in them. I think they're real. I think they change your subconscious. I think they're important. So I really think these are amazing, and I think that's why we're developing two other products. They're going to be ready in a couple months, but just ceremonial. So we're developing a candle set. So we have like 3 candles, and I put, to love, to heal, to remember are there the 3 candles, and you kind of light a candle and go, what do I need right now? I need to just sit and cry. I need to, feel. The other thing we're creating is a throw blanket. It's very, very, very bougie. So it's super cozy and it's very high quality and bougie. And it's almost like a big hug. So you just kind of,
Yeah,
you're not alone. There
yeah,
are people who get it, and you deliberately, doing affirmations, reading a book, talking to a friend, whatever it means for you, lighting the candles, wrapping yourself in a blanket, you're carving out time to heal and remember and honor. And that feels really good when you're going, like, I know every single animal I've lost deserves to be remembered. I don't want to sweep them under a rug because it feels a little painful. No, they deserve to be remembered. And actually it makes me feel good when I do that. And yeah, a
Regan,
long-winded answer.
this you're amazing. Thank you for
Oh,
sharing your big heart with the world and for putting all the time and effort into this book. And now we have some tips on if anyone out there is working on project, what was it your husband said? You need to finish that book. So
you
just
just
do
need to
it.
finish the book. And
Yeah.
he was right. I would have
Yeah.
been mad at myself if I never finished it.
Well, kudos for you and kudos to you. And thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom and your hope with everybody today.
Oh, vice versa. Same. You're doing good out there.
Thank you.